If you have a fear of flying, the following statistic might put your mind at ease. The actual odds of dying on a commercial flight is only about 1 in 29.4 million. However, not all airports are created equal. Treacherous approaches, narrow and short landing strips, inclement and unpredictable weather. Some airports are notoriously more dangerous than others. So buckle up for today's video, because here are the top 15 most dangerous airports in the world. Number 15. Princess Juliana International Airport, St. Martin. If you want to see a plane coming in up close, then head over to the Maho Beach at Simpson Bay Lagoon in St. Martin. The Princess Juliana International Airport is painfully close to the beach, and planes are horrifically close to beachgoers as they approach the landing strip. The planes pass only 30 to 60 feet above the beach, and while watching the planes come in is a big tourist attraction, the low altitude of the planes can pose risks to beachgoers, and there are signs warning people of the dangers. Massive jet blasts from the plane have been known to knock over onlookers, injuring them in the process. The airport is very busy, serving upwards of 1.8 million people annually. In fact, it's one of the busiest airports in the area, and is served by more than 30 different airlines. Despite this, the Princess Juliana International Airport has been called the 4th most dangerous airport in the world by History Channel show Extreme Airports. Number 14. Paro International Airport, Bhutan. Nestled in the Himalayas in a deep valley, the Paro International Airport sits at 7,364 feet above sea level, and it's the only international airport in Bhutan. But this little airport has its hazards, so much so that less than 24 pilots are actually certified to land there. The airport is surrounded by high cliffs, and to successfully land, pilots must maneuver their planes at a 45-degree angle so they can avoid the homes that sit along the cliff tops. Flights are only allowed to run during the day, and the aircrafts they fly must feature high maneuverability, a high service ceiling, and a high rate of climb. There's only one runway, and it's only 7,000 feet long. So Paro International Airport is widely regarded as one of the most challenging airports in the world. Number 13. Barra International Airport, Scotland. Barra International Airport in Scotland is one of the most unique airports in the world. It has 3 sand runways, which comes in varying length from 2,200 to 2,700 feet. But with uniqueness comes danger at this airport, because the landings are located directly on the beach. Landings are only available at low tide, and the runways lack the characteristic markers of most runways. Instead, the runways are marked by small sticks. The airport opened in 1936, and today sees more than 10,000 people land and leave. And while unmarked, sandy landings are difficult enough, the airport has another unusual danger: seals. Seals often come out of the water and onto the beach, and because they can't tell the difference between the plain beach and the runways, the airport employs special workers to get them out of the way and bring them back to sea. Number 12. Wellington International Airport, New Zealand. It is a bit surprising that the 3rd busiest airport in New Zealand is also one of the most dangerous. Wellington International Airport handles more than 6 million passengers per year. The airport borders the Wellington Harbor to the north and the Cook Strait to the south. It has a single runway that's 6,827 feet long, and a reputation for turbulent landings because the Cook Strait creates very strong winds. In 2007, the winds were so strong that they overturned a Cessna 172, and on February 17, 1963, Vickers 807 Viscount from the National Airways Corporation completely overran the runway and wound up down an embankment beside a public road. With a history of crashes like that, it's no wonder that this airport is considered dangerous. Number 11. Narsarsuaq Airport, Greenland. Narsarsuaq Airport in Greenland only receives about 25,000 people per year, and it was originally built by the Ministry of Defense in the United States in 1941. Today, the airport is a hub of transportation. It's just a short runway at only 6,000 feet, and the large number of fjords coupled with massive wind gusts make landings very difficult and risky for pilots. However, if you want to go to southern Greenland to see the sweeping mountains and the iconic fjords, then you might have to risk a flight here, because this airport is the only international airport in southern Greenland. The airport's often used by tourists as a transit point, and there aren't really any other options, so tourists to southern Greenland have no choice but to buckle up, cross their fingers, and stomach a sometimes very turbulent landing at this international airport. Number 10. Courchevel Airport, France. For those who dream of skiing in the French Alps, you might first find yourself having to stomach a flight into one of the most dangerous airports in Europe. Courchevel Airport serves skiing resorts in the French Alps, and as such, flying into this airport has its risks. For starters, the airport has a short runway of just 1,762 feet, as well as a steep gradient of 18.6%. Next, the airport's surrounded by mountains. Because of this, the airport doesn't have go-around procedures for landings, so there's no changing of minds once the plane has started to descend. The airport also doesn't have any instrument approach procedures, nor lighting aids, so when the fog or low clouds roll in, landing here is almost next to impossible. The airport mostly sees small fixed-wing aircrafts and helicopters, and the ridiculously difficult approach and the steep upward-sloping runway has earned this airport a reputation for dangerous landings. Number 9. Congonhas Airport, Brazil. Congonhas Airport in Brazil has made many headlines over the years because it's seen an obscene amount of crashes. The airport's situated in the very center of Sao Paulo, and the airport's known for having very slippery runways. The airport has two runways, one at 4,708 feet and one at 6,364 feet long. But the airport has a very bad drainage system, which makes the runways a bit of a hazard for pilots. In fact, the runways at Congonhas are often called the most dangerous runways in the world. In 1941, a plane crashed here when a pilot couldn't overcome the mountain massif. 13 people died in that crash, and only 3 years later in 1945, thick fog caused another crash at the airport, with 16 passengers perishing in that one. But the worst crash happened in July of 2007, when an Airbus from TAM Airlines lost control and flew off the runway and into the storage area. There were 187 passengers and crew on board, and all of them lost their lives, as well as 12 employees that were working in the warehouse building. Number 8. Ice Runway, Antarctica. You likely don't have to worry about the dangers of this next airport unless you plan on visiting Antarctica in the near future. Now, Antarctica is notorious for being inhospitable and holds the record for the coldest temperature ever recorded on Earth, minus 129 degrees Fahrenheit in 1983. So it's no surprise that the land of ice and cold has a pretty dangerous airport. Ice Runway only operates in the summer, and because during the winter it's just too dark, too cold, and too stormy for anything to safely land there. Even in the summer months, when the airport begins accepting flights, there are a plethora of dangers for pilots. Unpredictable weather, hurricane winds, blowing snow, and ice all pose a threat to pilots attempting to land here. And because the ice runway is very close to McMurdo Station, it's the principal runway for the United States Antarctic program. And although it's very dangerous, scientists who want to go there have no choice but to hop aboard and take their chances. Number 7. Kansai International Airport, Japan. At first glance, the Kansai International Airport in Japan looks like a pretty spectacular airport. The entire thing is surrounded by water and sits on an artificial island. It first opened in 1994 after completion of this massive infrastructure project. This airport has two runways and two terminals, the North and South Terminal. The South Terminal is the busiest, serving more than 12 million people a year, which is pretty impressive. And given the fact that the airport is built on an artificial island, the length of the runways is also pretty impressive. One is 11,482 feet long, and the other is 13,123 feet long. But landing on an artificial island in the middle of the water doesn't come without its dangers. Only experienced pilots are allowed to land on this man-made island, and all pilots who fly into this airport are given special training because the airport is prone to cyclones and earthquakes, as well as high winds. Number 6. Wancho-i-Orascan, Sabah. Wancho-i-Orascan Airport is widely regarded as the smallest commercial airport in the world and the world's shortest commercial landing strip. It has just one runway with a length of 1,312 feet. The airport is situated on the island of Sabah on the Dutch Caribbean side and was named after the Aruban minister Wancho-i-Orascan. The airport saw its first flights in September of 1963, and since then it's been regarded as one of the most dangerous airports in the world. This airport has high hills on one side, and on both ends of the runway are steep cliffs that drop off directly into the ocean. The airport doesn't allow any jet traffic. The landing strip is closed to jets, so if you want to visit this airport, you'll need to travel on a smaller plane, like a BN2 Islander, for example. Win Air is the only airline that has regularly scheduled flights to Wancho-Yaraskin. There have not, as of yet, been any major incidents at this place, but given the airport's precarious location, the airport is not exactly the easiest or safest place to land. Number 5. Gibraltar Airport. To say that the Gibraltar Airport is a little odd would be a bit of an understatement. Why? Because the airport literally cuts through the city center of Gibraltar. Winston Churchill Avenue, which is a very busy street, intersects the runway. Pictures of this unusual airport show airplanes crossing the street just as a car would. And while this makes it look a little on the humorous side, and it begs the question why the runway was built to cross a road in the first place, Gibraltar Airport is not a laughing matter. As the only airport in the world whose runway crosses right through a road, it has a number of inherent dangers. For example, the road has to be closed every time a plane takes off or lands, so the plane doesn't run over pedestrians and cars. The airport was once used by the British Navy as an emergency airfield. Today, though, the airport's used by both tourists and for cargo. The length of the runway is about 6,000 feet, and the ground crew have to work very closely with pilots to avoid accidents on this remarkable runway. This airport has miraculously been fairly free from incident, but clearly the potential is there for a pretty disastrous outcome should an accident happen, which is why the Gibraltar Airport is often called the most dangerous airport in Europe. Number 4. Svalbard Airport, Norway. Behold the Svalbard Airport, a feat of engineering mastery, and a slippery one. This stunning airport, located in Norway's Arctic archipelago, Svalbard, features a runway that's built directly onto the ice. This runway is built on the permafrost. It sounds dangerous? Yeah, it is, but not just because the planes have to land on ice. The Svalbard Airport also sees a lot of inclement weather conditions, which can cause visibility problems. Plus, the airport's fairly close to the magnetic north, which can cause navigational problems too for pilots brave enough to land here. As such, this airport was home to the worst accident in the history of Norway when a plane crashed into a mountain. The accident happened in 1996, and 141 passengers and crew lost their lives in the crash. Furthermore, there's reason to believe that this airport may become even more dangerous in the coming years, as global warming threatens the integrity of the runway. In fact, some experts believe that it's only a matter of time until this unique and icy airport has closed down for good. Number 3. Madeira Airport, Portugal. If the sparkling blue waters and stunning beaches of Madeira Island in Portugal are calling to you, you're not alone. This island paradise welcomes more than 5,000 tourists per year. But passengers flying into Madeira Airport in Portugal should be aware that the airport faces two very real safety threats. The first is the actual runway, and the second is weather conditions. The airport's on a cliff, so there's only so much land for the runway. The runway is both very narrow and very short, too short, which is why in 1977 a horrific crash took place at Madeira Airport. On November 19, 1977, a Boeing 727-282 overran a short runway and crashed onto the beach. The crash caused the plane to explode. There were 164 passengers on board, and tragically, 131 of them lost their lives. The runway was extended after this bad accident, but because there wasn't enough land, pillars were added to support the extension. And while the runway is now a bit longer than before, the short and narrow runway is not the only problem here. Officially called Cristiano Ronaldo Madeira International Airport, this airport is still infamously dangerous due to strong winds. Winds are a recurrent problem here. In fact, the winds are so strong that only very experienced pilots are allowed to land. And the worst part of it, Madeira Airport is basically the only way for international travelers to visit here, save for a ferry that doesn't always run. Number 2. Tocantin International Airport, Honduras. For those of you who dream of visiting the beautiful country of Honduras, you might want to think twice. The Tocantin International Airport has seen so many deadly crashes over the years that anyone flying there is taking an enormous risk. The airport is located in the capital of Honduras, Tegucigalpa, and this airport's known for its difficult approach. In fact, this airport's so treacherous that it's been ranked as the second most dangerous airport in the world. First off, the airport is surrounded by high mountains, which makes the approach difficult for even the most experienced of pilots. Secondly, the airport's also surrounded by residential neighborhoods, so should something go wrong, the outcome could be catastrophic. And thirdly, to access the runway, pilots have to execute a 45-degree turn just minutes before touching down on the runway. Then the pilots are faced with a very steep approach, so they need more runway than that at an average sea-level airport. They don't really have it, though. The runway is only 2,012 meters long, so the airport sees a lot of accidents. In 1989, a Boeing commercial plane crashed into the mountainside while approaching. 132 people were killed. On May 22, 2018, a plane went off the runway and collapsed right over a boulevard. And these are only two examples, as the airport has seen at least 10 accidents since 1989. In fact, when it comes to crashes, it seems that Toronto Airport wins the crown, although that's not really a crown any airport would want to win. Treacherous mountains, dramatic turns, a short runway, a steep approach. The airport has all the recipes for disaster, which is why it consistently ranks really high on the dangerous airport list. Number 1. Tenzing-Hillary Airport, Nepal. The Tenzing-Hillary Airport is so dangerous that pilots require special training to fly there. It's got a very short runway at only 1,729 feet, and it's notorious for its unpredictable weather, such as thick fog or heavy snow. The airport's situated on the edge of a cliff 9,000 feet above sea level. Pilots who are brave enough to tackle this airport must have a few credentials under their belt first. They must have at least 1 year of flying experience in Nepal. They must have more than 100 short takeoffs and landings. And they must have over 10,000 successful flights to Lukla with a highly trained certified instructor. 10,000. If the sheer amount of training needed to navigate this airport doesn't speak to just how dangerous it is, then let's talk actual crashes. The airport has seen its fair share of plane crashes over the years, but two recent ones in particular made headlines. In 2018, 18 people were killed from an unsuccessful landing, and in 2019, a plane veered from the runway and collided with a helicopter, killing 3 people. So why would anyone fly to or from this airport given its hazards? Tenzing-Hillary Airport, or Lukla Airport as it's sometimes called, brings passengers to the small town of Lukla, which is a popular place to start the ever-so-famous Mount Everest climb. So for some, the risk is worth the reward, but for most, the fact is that this airport is consistently called the most dangerous in the world. That's enough to make them avoid it. It's also enough for me to give the Tenzing-Hillary Airport the winning spot on this list of 15 most dangerous airports in the world, although the top spot on this list doesn't exactly come with bragging rights.
Watch our binge-watching playlist if you'd like to watch all of our most popular top 15 videos. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and get ready to binge.